This is the 2026 Chevrolet Traverse Z71. The Traverse is Chevy's people-pleasing three-row family crossover. This is a unibody vehicle with independent suspension on all four corners, it seats up to 7, and it's guaranteed not to turn any heads. Sorry, that's kind of boring. The model that we're testing today is a 2026 Traverse Z71. This package adds a lot of good stuff, including all-terrain tires wrapped around 18-inch wheels, improvements in the suspension, a twin-clutch rear-drive unit, and the addition of hill descent control. It also gets red recovery points. The Z71 trim specifically competes against the Nissan Pathfinder Rock Creek, the Honda Pilot Trail Sport, and even the Subaru Ascent. The model we have here starts at $48,900, but ours arrived with a number of options, including the driver convenience package, which adds hands-free driving along with a Bose 12-speaker premium audio system, a panoramic sunroof, and it even has the driver confidence package, which adds surround view cameras, AC power, and a rear view camera mirror. All that pushes the price up to $57,455 US, including destination. Under the hood of this Traverse is a 2.5-liter turbocharged four-cylinder. This makes a peak 328 horsepower and 326 pound-feet of torque. Power goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission to all four wheels, using an advanced all-wheel drive setup enhanced with off-road drive modes. So those power numbers sound pretty good, but what can they do in the real world? Let's do a test. Simple 0 to 60, I'm in all-wheel drive. There's no other settings applicable, so let's just stomp it. 3, 2, 1, punch it! Okay, oh, then it kicks in. Turbo really kicks in around 4,500 and 60 in 7.34 seconds. Now, considering the size of this vehicle, I'd say that's pretty darn decent. Even though this is technically a midsize, it feels big. It feels wide, and I think a lot of it has to do with the dash design. It's just, I see so much dash here. It's a lot. This is, of course, primarily a front-wheel drive vehicle. There's even a little toggle down here for all-wheel drive and front-wheel drive. Personally, if I have an all-wheel drive, I'm probably just going to keep it in all-wheel drive. Although, to get the best fuel economy, you need to bump it over to that other mode. The EPA does rate this at 19 miles to the gallon in town and 23 on the highway, which is about par for course. I mean, keep in mind, the design of this engine is to replace a V6. So it is a lot of horsepower, and with that much horsepower, you're just not going to get fantastic economy. If you're looking for an economy setup, you're going to have to go to one of the brands that offers a hybrid. So to compete directly with this trim package, you'd probably be looking at the Woodland edition of the Toyota Highlander. That is available with a hybrid, which gets phenomenal MPGs, doesn't have the best off-road capability, even for the class, but if your number one motive for buying one of these is economy, then that's the one you need to look at. In terms of handling, it's okay. I mean, it's everything that you would probably need in a family crossover, because you're not gonna, be hitting the corners too quick with this thing. This does have a twin clutch rear drive unit, and that does help with general handling. You add a little throttle here, it kind of carves the corners a little bit, It's not as front oriented all the time as you would expect. And actually that kind of impresses me. Like, I didn't expect this all-wheel drive system to feel this good on pavement. But the fact is, it does feel really good. Even today where there's little spots of water and stuff, I feel like it's really competent no matter how much I push it. And obviously I'm not going to push it too much because public roads. But yeah, a little throttle here and there, it can deal with it. Our vehicle here is equipped with the Super Cruise hands-free autopilot system. However, that doesn't help you on little country roads like the one I'm on right now. For this, it'll use standard ADAS, that's your adaptive cruise control system. Basically, I push up. Wait, what? Okay, so I just enabled Super Cruise on a tiny little highway in the middle of nowhere, and it's still engaged. What the heck? I didn't know that they would have added this to the map. So when I used Super Cruise, I think it was last year was the last time I used it. It did not work on this highway. Okay, well, cool, look at this. We got Super Cruise engaged. You'll note the light up on the steering wheel, the gauge cluster goes green, and now the car is literally driving. That is so cool. Super Cruise is geofenced, so you can't just use it anywhere, but clearly they've expanded the maps to be pretty accepting of the world around us, which is nice. Now this will pace the vehicle in front of us. If we do come up to a vehicle, it'll pace them at a speed that's appropriate, and I can of course set the gap using the button over there. But no, this thing, look at that. It's driving country road, even with a corner. I don't have to do anything. And it's doing a great job. Okay, Chevy, I'm impressed. That is really impressive. So the Super Cruise system also supports automated lane changes. Obviously, we're on a single lane highway here, so we can't do that. But just be aware that if you hit the turnstile, it will do an automated lane change. Personally, I'm quite capable of doing my own lane changes. But, you know, if you just want to sit back and be totally chill, just let the car do all the driving. You just got to keep your eyes looking ahead, though. This is so cool. In terms of user service items under the hood, we do have, of course, a dipstick, which is nice to see. Some European manufacturers have gotten rid of that. We also can fill wiper fluid right there, and then brake fluids right over here, although you shouldn't have to mess with that, obviously. And then we also have really easy access to the battery. You fill the oil right here, it is 0W20. Now next to it, we do have the air intake for the engine. This does require 5 screws to get to the air filter in here. Thankfully, it's a little easier to get to the cabin air filter, although that also requires a screwdriver. In theory, replacing the cabin air filter should be easy. Just open the glove box, remove the side piston, pinch the sides, remove the door. However, this one wasn't letting me get the box off. I think I need a pry tool, and I wasn't going to do that to a test vehicle. Here's something kind of surprising. That's an actual metal skid plate. Now it is aluminum, but that is still way stronger than the plastic you would normally find on this class of crossover. This Z71 does come standard with all-terrain tires. It is a Goodyear Wrangler Territory all-terrain in a 265/65 R18 fitment. Now these are mud and snow rated, but they are not 3-peak rated, which would be the next level of snow capability. Still, I think they'll be fine for the trails we're going to take it on today. The Z71 does include a trailering package that adds a 220 amp alternator, improves cooling, and also has a tow hitch right down here. Ta-da! It also has a 7-pin connector. The total towing capacity is 5,000 pounds as equipped. In the back here, behind the second row, we get up to 55.7 cubic feet of cargo capacity. Fold all the seats flat for up to 98 cubic feet overall. So let's see, can we sleep in it? I'm 6'1", and though there is plenty of space for me to stretch out lengthwise, there's a huge gap here, and that's never ideal. However, if you wanted to work on filling up these gaps, it would work just fine. Lots of room back here. Under the floor is extra cargo space. Where's the spare? Let's unscrew this, unscrew that. Back here you get the temporary spare, a jack, and this is also where they locate the Bose subwoofer. Not convenient, but hopefully you'll never need it. So with the seat all the way forward, let's see if I fit. Okay, pull that back. Oh, this is the maximum amount of space in the third row, and my knees are literally pressing against the seat back. If you're a fan of The Cure or My Chemical Romance, you'll love this interior. It's all black. Black on black on black. Some of the plastics are a little on the cheap side. The synthetic leather, also a little cheap. The seat here, it's a little flat, doesn't support very well. I do get a fold down arm though, which is nice. And then down here I do get my own climate controls, which is actually really good. It's where the AC power is, 2 USB-C sockets, and of course we have this big panorama sunroof. Oh, and vents are in the ceiling, which is great if you have pets back here or you have little kids. They always prefer at least my kids always prefer the roof vents to the central lower vent. Space isn't too bad. If I slide this forward, where was that? Slide all the way forward, it's super tight. I would have to be in this position, obviously, if somebody was in the back. However, if I go full length, it's not bad. I am 6'1", legs torso proportionate, and I fit fine. Right, on the inside, we have a seat that is covered in synthetic leather. It's not the most comfortable. It's a little flat. It doesn't really cradle me very well, but I think it would be okay for probably most people. I have lots of power settings over here, which is nice. And this also does have heat. The passenger side, unfortunately, is all manual controls. It also has heat though. The steering wheel is pretty sporty looking. It is wrapped and it has nice stitching down there, as well as a Z71 logo, and I do get little paddle shifters in the back, as well as little stereo controls, which are which is kind of a Chevy trademark. As far as instrumentation is concerned, I do have a digital gauge cluster. There's lots of little screens I can pick from, and I have a few different designs I can play with. Over here on the right, we have a Google-based infotainment system. It includes maps, music, and also has mobile device integration. Let's go ahead and pair a phone. Once it's connected, we do get Apple CarPlay, which is nice to see here. Chevy has talked about getting rid of CarPlay on their non-EVs like this, but that hasn't happened yet. And I will be very sad for them when it does go away, because I use Apple CarPlay every single day. What else do we have here? We do have some vehicle setup and some quick controls. We can go into auto high beams. We can look at the camera system. We can do park assist. Hill descent control is in there. Yeah, lots of different stuff. There's also an auto park feature, which I personally don't ever use. And then we also have some little shortcuts up there as well. Now the rest of this interior, it's a lot of glossy material. This is all piano black and it will be so scratched within a few days or weeks. Like, it looks great in the showroom, but once you get it home, yeah, this is not going to put up with keys and cups and all that stuff long term. We do have a nice big bin here, and that even has a light in it, which is great to see. And then because this is the Z71, you get this like lacquered kind of fish scale design, which goes from black to red. I think it actually looks pretty cool. It gives a very specific vibe to this interior, which is kind of neat. On the left here, we have an all-wheel drive control. You do have to select if you're an all-wheel drive or front-wheel drive. And then we also have a mode selector. We have lots of different drive modes. We already talked about normal and sport, but this is also where I would do a towing mode, as well as the off-road and terrain modes, which we're going to play with in just a moment. Because this vehicle comes equipped with all-terrain tires. So you expect it to be able to go a little bit off-road, right? Well, that's what we're going to test now. And the biggest issue with this vehicle is that it only has 7.7 inches of ground clearance. That is not a lot. But we're going to try to get through our fun forest, and if we can get through that, then we'll move on to the moguls. So let's go ahead, head out, and see what this can do on our courses. Right, so the first test we're going to do here we call the Fun Forest. This is our easy test. This vehicle has a little less than 8 inches of ground clearance, and that might be a problem for going into this course. So yeah, fingers crossed. So you might be naturally asking, why are we doing this kind of a test with a vehicle like a Chevy Traverse? Well, this is the Z71. It has all-terrain tires and it has off-road modes. Naturally, we need to test those, right? So first I'm going to do is turn on my camera. I'm going to go standard front. And let's go ahead and drive and see if we can get over this initial bump. Oh, can I turn off those parking sensors? Yeah, touchscreen control right there. You couldn't hear it, but it was vibrating my seat, which is kind of a cool trick. Now I don't have any special drive modes on right now. This is just standard drive. Boy, this guy's kind of wide for this trail. Okay, well, let's go ahead and start with one of the drive modes. Where is that? Down here, right. Oh, with the camera on, I can't look at my drive modes. So we're going to go ahead and just switch over to off-road mode here, and then we'll go into terrain mode if things get a little more challenging. Turn on that front camera again. When everything's in the touchscreen, you just have to constantly, you can only look at one thing at a time, which is kind of annoying. I would like to see more use of this to give me a clear description of what mode I'm in. There's just tiny little icons down there, and I kind of have to know what they mean to understand what's going on here. Oh, this is big. Come on, let's get through here. Now what we're looking for is wheel spin and how the system responds. Now this has a dual clutch rear drive unit according to Chevy, so we should see very little spin in the back before the vehicle starts to move forward. Let's see what this mode can get us. As we initially lift a wheel. Okay, move forward pretty quick. That's kind of nice. Go a little wide here. Just keep the throttle on. Let it do its job. We should have no problem with grip because we have mild all-terrains on. Add a little throttle. Let it climb us out. No problem. No problem at all. Who would think that of all the family 3 rows, the Chevy Traverse would actually have a legit drive unit? Okay, now we're going to try to lift ourselves out with a wheel losing grip, that wheel and that wheel, as we just slowly apply throttle. Let's see it do some work. No problem. Moves us right through it. That was an excellent result. Well done, Chevy Traverse. Now let's try something a little harder. So what we have over here is our ridge trail. Let's see if we can get up and over. Now with this level of ground clearance, which is not a lot, and a long wheelbase, I'm expecting we are going to rub. That is, if we can even get over that initial route. Let's see. Okay, let me give you a closer look at what I'm talking about. So right up here, we have a route, but what you can't see is over here we have another route causing a big bump right there. And that has been a pretty big problem. The Honda CR-V Trail Sport, the Mitsubishi Outlander, neither of those could make it up. The Subaru Crosstrek Hybrid could make it up, however. Also, 2026 Subaru Outback made it up. So let's see what this one can do. So for this, we're going to do the next level. We're going to go ahead and turn on the off-road view here, because why not? I know this trail. I don't need the cameras for it. What else am I going to do? All right, modes. Let's switch over to terrain mode, which, let me just read its own description. Tackling steep hills and crawling over extreme obstacles. Says it right there. It also applies the brakes for enhanced climbing control. So let's see what that all means. Drive. I don't know about approach angle on this. We're going to listen for any crunching. Wow. Okay, so normally you're like, ooh, throttle, speed. But now that I'm in this mode, it's like, ooh, throttle, barely moving, which is what you want. It gives me so much more control over the throttle. And it puts me into the power zone before we start moving. Very good. Listen. Should hit the route about now. And we go up and over. Listen for crunching. That brake over. Yeah, we're gonna rub, but do we have enough to get over this? Barely, but it just walked it. Did so good. I am kind of Actually, I'm really impressed. That is a huge step up from the Equinox that we tested just about 6 months ago, and it couldn't even get into our off-road course. This is next level. Now, it doesn't have a ton of ground clearance. We had to drag our way up, but also, the ground clearance isn't everything. The Mitsubishi Outlander claimed to have 8.3 inches of ground clearance, yet there was a whole bunch of the vehicle hanging down underneath it that clearly was not at 8.3 inches, because we could not get over this. We were literally hanging up on it and couldn't go forward. So, well done, Chevy. Let's see if we can get this big boy through the rest of the course here. And we are still in that terrain mode. Now, it's really tight here, so I'm going to go ahead and turn on that camera, which unfortunately means I have to navigate all over the place. Okay, there we go. Now we have a bit of a dip here. I don't want to hit it too hard because compression might rub the front. No rubbing. Okay, so the Subaru Outback, the new 2026, has an 18-degree approach angle, and it rubbed there. This one did not. So this must have a better approach angle than that. Okay, let's do side view. Can I do back? Oh, I can't do, there we go. I want to do side back view. There we go. Let's see if it clears right around that stump. Nice. It is kind of silly though. It feels like these cameras should fill up the screen just a little bit more than they do. But still, wow, this is me being impressed by a Chevy. Redemption, right? I am all for a proper redemption arc, and I think that we're seeing one right now with this Chevy. Tight there. Ooh, so snug because it's such a big vehicle. And it's not like it's long, but it is really wide. Let's make sure we don't bump a tree. And we have a big ditch here on our left, so let's try to cut to the right a little bit. We're still in, ooh, bounce that front a little bit. Not too bad though, just a little rub. Now we're on to the moguls. I keep expecting to hear a crunch, and I don't, which absolutely floors me. So you just keep pushing forward a little bit here. Yeah, no problem. We get through. That rear drive unit, man, it just transforms vehicles that have it. It's similar to the setup on the Bronco Sport Badlands Edition that also has a twin rear drive unit, as does the Land Rover Evoque. Now we have the sand slide. We're going to go up as high as we can on this. See how much grip these all-terrains have for lateral sliding. Come on, you got this. It's funny because you have to push the throttle in almost like 50% before you go anywhere in terrain mode. It's actually quite cool. And then when I release it, it actually puts the brakes on. So it's like a one-pedal off-road mode. Now they do have this on other Chevys, the terrain mode, but here it just works so well. And that rear drive unit not only makes the vehicle more capable, it also tears up the trails a lot less than a solidly brake vectoring type system, which, you know, relies on a lot of wheel spin before anything kicks in. There we go. And out. Well, that was pretty impressive. Yeah, I think we're just gonna continue over the ridge here. Let's do it. I'm gonna go wide on the ditch because let's be realistic about the approach and brake over on this thing, even though they have impressed so far. This is a pretty deep ditch with a pretty abrupt exit. I think we're going to be okay here. Yeah. And then down we go. And can we get lift out here? Come on. Man, this is so much better than I expected it to be. This is why we test. Blow my assumptions out of the water. I can really hear that brake vectoring system kicking in on the front axles, and then the rear drive unit is just doing its business back there. No real fuss. Cameras, I can see the wheels, so I can make sure that I stay on the ridge. This vehicle is about as wide as our ridge road is. My other way of going down hills, other than using pedals like a normal human, is to switch the drive mode back to normal And I can go to shortcuts and go to hill descent control. Now at this point, if I lift my foot off the brake, it'll say hill descent control set to 1 mile per hour, and it eases me down using gravity and controlling brakes on all 4 corners as needed. Now that wasn't a very difficult hill, but it demonstrated the process. So overall, very impressed with this Traverse. Like, I was even debating going up the ridge climb, and it killed it. It just showed all the others how it should be done. The only other vehicle that I was that impressed with was probably the Palisade XRT Pro, which did add a proper rear locker to the back. This twin clutch rear drive unit though, it works great. And it's probably the same or similar to the units also found in the Range Rover. It might be a GKN unit, or it could be a number of different units. All of them are actually quite good. And here it just did an amazing job. So will I recommend the Traverse to people who would otherwise look at a Land Cruiser? No. It is lacking in other areas. You don't have articulation because it is a unibody. This interior is far too precious to be going off-road. What I mean is that there's so much lacquered, like, luxury stuff going on in here. I just don't think it'll look great after a couple days. You also have some cheap plastics mixed in with the really nice stuff, which is kind of a little weird. Like, you open this bin and you're like, ah! Those plastics are incredibly cheap. That's really cheap in there. That's nice. That's nice. That's okay. It's just a real mishmash of materials. But the overall effect is a precious one. It is a delicate piece of jewelry, not a rugged piece of hardware. And I think that is the big distinction. But if you do own one of these, you want to go skiing, or you have a cabin you need to get to that has a mostly graded road but can get a little tricky when it rains or snows, I have no problem recommending this. That worked fantastic. No issues, no errors. It just drove where I pointed it to. For Driving Sports TV, I'm Ryan Douthit. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, share videos. We make them for you. And I hope you enjoyed this look at the 2026 Chevy Traverse Z71. Oh, and hit that subscribe button, please. Please, please. Thank you.